George Lucas is in a bit of heat right now after the panel at San Diego Comic-Con because he said he is not the type of person to sell a piece of art if it appreciates and to move for money. And a lot of people in the comments around the internet are saying, George, you're a hypocrite. You did exactly that. You created the best piece of art, Star Wars, and you sold it for $4 billion. I got nothing to say. As much of a George idolizer as I am, I agree with the fans on this one. And that's exactly what I said before the video even got out there on the internet. But my editor cut it out, and it'll probably be in the full vlog, which will be for our 9-year anniversary for the channel, which is amazing. But before I digress on that, George did ultimately sell his greatest piece of art. Sold it for $4 billion. Now, why did he sell it? Because he felt that it would be in the best hands possible to continue his story. He didn't just say, here, I'm going to sell it, you do what you want. He had specific plans and outlines to continue the characters that were so beloved. 7, 8, 9. And what did Disney do? They didn't continue that. I can berate that all day long, but at the end of the day, that was his thought process, that he didn't know how long he would be alive. He didn't know if he would have time to do this because he wanted to focus on his children and the rest of his life. And to be honest, after that, the Fans Against George Lucas video, which just completely turned him away from it, which he talked about, that he wanted to be able to explore his films and do what he wanted and be creative. But he felt like he was bound by the fandom to do things a certain type of way, that he had to do it how people wanted. And he didn't like that. It lost its creativity, it lost its fun. And for that reason, partially, is why he sold it. And he sold it to someone that he trusted. Bob Iger and George Lucas had a very long history back into the 90s. And I've talked about that a million times. Now, I can briefly touch on it. Bob Iger basically fought tooth and nail for George to get his Young Indiana Jones Adventures show, Season 2, greenlit after the first season didn't do so well with ratings at ABC. And George remembered that forever. So when it came time to potentially selling Star Wars, Bob got into his ear and said, you know, George, what are you going to do with Lucasfilm? You don't have any heirs. You're getting old, blah, blah, blah. What's going to happen to it? You got to start thinking. Just like the Emperor, George fell for it. And he had a plan for 7, 8, 9. He wanted everything to go a certain way. He had full treatments for all the characters, for where it was going to go. And they promised that they would do it. They promised they would properly take his stories and do the best with it. And they didn't. And we all know what happened there. And I can go on about that, but we know what happened. So, do I blame him for selling it? Yeah, I do. I think he never should have sold it. And I think when he went on Harry Rosen and said that he sold it to the white slavers, he knew that he messed up. He regretted his decision. And I think him at that panel was also him having a bit of character evolution and progression and saying, you know what? I shouldn't have sold this. I shouldn't have sold my best piece of art for money. I don't think necessarily George was very persuaded by money. I think he was already extremely rich with Star Wars. I think he sold it because he thought it was in the best hands possible to continue his legacy after Bob Iger whispered in his ear. He shut down Disney Park or whatever it was, Disney Springs or whatever it was, Downtown Disney or some shit. Had lunch with George and pulled out all the stops and promised George that he would continue his legacy, respect the characters, and, well, basically everything opposite of what we got. So my thoughts on what George said is like, yeah, man, I wish he never sold it. But at the same time, you can kind of see his Darth Vader moment. You were right. You were right. Tell your sister you were right. And that he shouldn't have sold it at all. Because this was his greatest piece of art form ever. And he did get rich out of it for sure, you know, but I can guarantee you that George probably wishes maybe he did a little bit different when it came time to signing. Maybe he changed something in the contract, or maybe he just never sold it altogether. And for me, it's unfortunate that he did. And it was sad seeing him up there, in a sense of, it really separated Star Wars for me, even more so. Because I'm like, here's the guy that actually created it all. Here's the guy behind everything. Not these imposters that are in these suits that are telling us what Star Wars is, and then calling us racist and sexist if we don't like their slop. Get real, man. And that's why I will continue to fight for George Lucas Star Wars. I'll continue to talk about it respectfully, because the moment you're rude or anything like that, that immediately detracts from any argument that you can make. And so I will always take the Jedi approach and factually explain why things don't align with George's vision. And at the end of the day, and all these new Disney fans, which eventually they will learn, they will see that George's vision was the true vision for Star Wars. And it is the only vision for Star Wars. That doesn't mean it has to be told by George Lucas, because we have no other option at this point, but it means that we need to always think, what would George do? That's a great t-shirt. What would George do? WWGD. What would George do? And that's actually something that I carried with me throughout my whole life. Not what would George do, but, in times of hardship or whatever as a kid, what would Luke do? What would Vegeta do? What would Goku do? And that's why these mythological characters and stories are so goddamn important to so many people. And when you destroy them for money, and I say money not is a bad thing, but I say if your purpose to create is money, it will be shit. Because you're not creating something to solve an issue. You're not creating something for creativity or to tell a story, to feel compelled to explain something or motivate or inspire people. You're creating it for money. And that is darkness. That's thinking inwards. That's the Sith. And for me, that's just not the way you do things. And the way George did it was, he told the story of Star Wars the best that he could, because it was something that inspired him, and it was a story that he felt was extremely motivational to a lot of people. And through that creativity and passion, he became a billionaire. You see how this works? And these studios, they don't understand that. They think, oh, how can we turn the biggest profit? How can we bang this out the fastest we can for the quarter one returns? And that's why they will always fail, because they are phonies. Because they don't understand. They're looking at numbers. They're looking at greed. They're looking at money. But if they take their heads out of their ass, they'll finally understand that, hey, if I actually put people in charge that are passionate about this and care about it, and they create something that really resonates with the everyday person, and I stop calling people racist and sexist and whatever if they don't like the shit that I put out, then maybe we're onto something. Maybe we're back into where Star Wars should have been, which is one person, one owner, one guy, one vision, and a team of very talented people to make that vision become reality. That is Star Wars. That is storytelling. So should George have sold it? Hell no. Is George a hypocrite for saying that? Yeah. But also maybe he has realized, just like Luke, just like Anakin, just like Vader, just like every other character in all the movies that we love, as you make mistakes, you realize, maybe I could have done things a little bit differently. Maybe I could have changed. Maybe that wasn't the best choice. And I think maybe, George came to that realization a very long time ago, and him saying that on stage was him maybe admitting. That's just my theory, my Star Wars theory, to bring it full circle. Regardless, man, I'm always with you guys, and I do agree that George never should have sold this thing. But in his defense, he did feel like Disney had his back. And, well, I think we've all been betrayed in life by people we trusted. So let's hope the next person that someday gets in charge of Star Wars is going to really take care of it like George did. See what happens. That's my long rant about that. And let me know what you guys think. Thank you so much for 9 years of the channel, 9 years of supporting George Lucas Star Wars. And it hasn't, I don't want to say it's been hard. It's not hard being a Star Wars fan, but you know, the bullshit that comes with it from a lot of the if you don't like this, you're racist. If you don't like this, you're whatever. Crowd is tiresome, and I got a fraction of what George received, and I can only imagine how much he wanted to get away from it. Do I really blame him? I don't know. But it takes a strong person to definitely continue forwards with your vision. And he did that for a long time. And maybe if he was, 10, 20 years younger, he would have kept it. He would have stayed going. But I guess we'll never know. Maybe one day I will speak with George and I will just talk to him and ask him. Maybe he won't be so afraid to speak his mind, to rustle some feathers. He's never been afraid to speak his mind, but I feel like he has a lot to say. Then again, your thoughts betray you. Have a great day, guys. 9 years. Can't wait for the 10-year, the big 10, the big 1-0. And Vader Episode 2 is looking absolutely amazing. It's fantastic. For those of you who made it this far in the video, I love you. I appreciate you. You're literally the reason I'm still here. And I'll see you guys in Boston next week. And then Chicago. It's going to be fantastic, as Arnold would say. We're also having a big sale at theorysabers.com. And we're incorporating mocap into Vader, so it's going to be extremely expensive. So make sure you go and take advantage of the sale. This movie's going to be amazing. I truly believe it. Love you all. Love George Lucas. And here's to better fandom and better Star Wars going forward. May the Force be with you.